So yeah, man. In the world of politics, we got Donald Trump who wants to send troops to New York City, right? And apparently, good leaders of the city have a few things to say about it. So reports indicate that Donald Trump was considering deploying federal troops to New York City and other Democratic-led cities, but New York State and local leaders have rejected the idea. The reports emerged after Trump deployed National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. under an executive order aimed at addressing civil disturbances. On August 25th, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order to create specialized National Guard units in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. to quell civil disturbance. Right? He argued that the Democratic-ran cities were failing to address crime and has suggested that he might deploy troops without waiting for response from governors. We'll unpack that later. The consideration of a deployment to NYC followed the controversial deployment of the National Guard in D.C., like I was telling y'all. These actions also follow a period of political tension with the Trump administration and leaders of major cities over, crime and law enforcement. Now, among those leaders, the New York political leaders had something to say. After a phone call with President Trump in late August, Governor Hochul publicly rejected the idea of federal troops. And she stated that New York City's crime rates have declined significantly, including a drop in homicides and shootings. And that the deployment was unnecessary. Now, that's kind of interesting because before we got cut off yesterday, I reported about the 4 shootings that happened in the Bronx, in a 7 to 8 hour span, right? But again, per capita, because that's how they always want to do shit, we are super low, because even if, it's crazy to say, but even if you had 200 murders in the city, in a city of 8 million people, some might argue 12, ain't that, I mean, it's bad, for the people who lost the people, but, now in a one-on-one interview, Mayor Adams expressed his opposition, stating that the city did not need assistance, and he pointed to his administration's successful effort to reduce violent crime, including removing illegal firearms off the street. During a meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi, Commissioner Tisch asserted that the NYPD can handle the crime independently. All right. Now, with Trump saying that he might not wait, right? There are potential legal barriers because Trump's ability to deploy troops to a state without a governor's request is limited. The legal framework used for the D.C. deployment, which gives the president control over the District of Columbia National Guard, does not apply to the state because the state governors control, the National Guard. You know what I'm saying? For a state, the president would have to invoke federal emergency laws, which are typically restricted to protecting federal property or personnel. So, like, unless you got like a January 6th type situation that pops off, you know, like, they can't really do an override. You know what I'm saying? Like, the state National Guard is controlled. If y'all know, like, my documentary on T. Stuckey, I kind of spoke on that, how Governor Romney had deployed the National Guard in Detroit during the riots of 67 to 68. You know what I mean? And they also control the prisons. The governors are the ones who can commute the state sentence. That's why when Trump commuted Larry Hoover's sentence on the federal level, but the holdout was the governor of Illinois wouldn't commute his life sentence. You know what I'm saying? Or pardon his sentence, whatever. All right. So certain legal report that I was looking at noted that deploying federal troops to local jurisdictions would raise constitutional questions and concerns about federal overreach. States such as California have already sued the administration over the deployment of National Guard troops, and the outcome of such lawsuits could influence like the future action. And that right there, whatever, was when they had the National Guard out there saying that there was civil unrest when ICE was doing all of the raids out there. You know what I mean? They were running down all the regulations and all of that. And there's been several people, law enforcement, local politicians or whatever, who have said like that shit wasn't even necessary. Even when I was on Clubhouse, it was people saying like, bro, that shit was overkill. Like, that shit was like damn near like one or a few blocks at most. It wasn't like this large citywide shit like they made it seem. They got a law called the Posse Comitatus Act, whatever. I want to say that's like Comitatus. Comitatus. It sounds like some Roman shit. But the Posse Comitatus Act. So this law generally prohibits the military from acting as domestic law enforcement on U.S. soil, though exceptions do exist. Now, as of today, as of August 28, 2025, no plan had been executed to deploy the National Guard troops in New York City. You know what I mean? The proposal remains a political threat from Trump, from the Trump administration, while state and city officials citing declining crime rates and legal concerns have publicly opposed the idea. January 2023 report that I was looking at, because I was curious, because I'm kind of speeding ahead. I'm kind of curious because I saw in one of the press conferences that they were accusing Trump of deploying the National Guard to blue-ran states, right? And so people were saying that he was using the National Guard to kind of apply political pressure on his rivals. It's like, yeah, we got guns in your town, like, we in your backyard. It's like the occupancy, like the same shit we do to them niggas overseas, right? And so I was wondering, like, okay, well, Trump is on a news clip stating that the blue states had the highest crime rates and shit. So I was like curious, let me fact check this. So there was a January 2023 report by a think tank known as Third Way. right? And they had analyzed murder rates between the 2000 and 2020 era, so over a 20-year period, which is typically what they do, right? And like it's 2023, like just for those who don't know, like when they take the statistics, a lot of it is based on the census, the end of the year reports, quarterly reports, all culminated together to kind of come up and find a pattern, right? So you don't always get the trend like in the actual moment because there's a lot of like surrounding data that has to be factored in or whatever to like, you know, represent the numbers properly. So a lot of times when you like look at these statistics and these reports, they are gonna be like a couple years back. You know what I mean? So anyway, the report by Third Way analyzed the murder rates between 2000 and 2020, and they concluded that states that voted for Donald Trump consistently had a higher murder rate than states that voted for Joe Biden in every year during that period. So over the course of 20 years, all of these strong Trump supporters, like all of these red states, have had the highest homicide rate 20 years in a row, beating all the blue states. Now, this red state murder gap, you know, widened over 2 decades with Trump voting showing a 44% higher per capita murder rate in 2019 compared to the Biden voting states, right? And even with excluding the counties that like had the largest cities from, you know, the red states and shit, the murder rate still remained 12% higher in the Trump voting states. So even if you try to cut out, like, okay, we're going to take out all the major cities where all the smoke is happening or whatever, and shit, it's still up 12%, 44% if you just leave it right. So how is you know, he sat here and said that the blue states have the highest crime, right? Now, one thing about red states or whatever that factor in, you know, to that shit is higher gun ownership, you know what I mean? Like, and they got lower social services because they believe everybody should pull their own weight, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably contributing factor to the higher murder rate. Now, it's probably contributing to the fact of why they're voting for him, because he's supposed to be the tough on crime candidate. And their crime is just running wild or whatever. And shit, so they need somebody to come in like that. Whereas places like New York, where we do have crime and like shit do pop off out here. But, you know, it's like it's spread out. You know what I mean? Like, but according to the CDC analysts, the red state murder rate was 9.0 per 100,000 residents in 2021, while the blue state murder rate was 6.8 per 100,000 residents. In 2022, those figures were 8.5 for the red and 6.4 for the blue, respectively. You know what I mean? Reports in August of 2025 indicate that 13 of the 20 U.S. cities with the highest murder rate were in Republican-run states. Although many of these cities were led by Democratic mayors, the publication The Hill reported that according to a 2024 FBI data report, Memphis, Tennessee, a major city in a Republican state, topped the list of cities with the highest rates of murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault per 100,000 people. STDs too. And shit, we know that shit is crazy because the Hernandez-Govan, you know what I mean, situation. You feel me? I mean, well, the young dog murder, just the whole war in Memphis. You know what I mean? And like that shit, the war in Memphis is spilling into other states. You know, states like Louisiana from 2000 to 2018 held the highest murder rate in the country before being surpassed by Mississippi. Mississippi since 2019 had been at or near the top of the list for highest murder rates. And in 2021, it had the highest firearm mortality rate. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that probably goes for mishandling the gun, getting shot with one, suicide or whatever, who knows? You know, Alabama for 20 of the past 21 years has been at the top 5 states for murders. And I mean, we saw the whole situation play out. You know, all the things that were going on, like just from the rap perspective, because this is hip-hop orientated YouTube channel /street/ you know. But we saw with that honeycomb crazy situation, how crazy Alabama did with it. Shout out to Money Jane for the still in here. Missouri, show me state, has consistently been in the top 10 states for murders since 2004, nigga. And you know, shit, the history of Missouri, bro, like, you know, St. Louis and Kansas City, they gangbanging like a motherfucker in Kansas. You know, you know, Tennessee, like I said, like Missouri, been in the top 10 states for murder rates since 2004. South Carolina, and well, it wasn't South Carolina, but in Charlotte, you know what I mean? You know, the war in Memphis spilled into Charlotte, like was spilled into the Carolinas, just like I was saying. So, you know, this state, now South Carolina has been in the top 10, you know, for each of the past, like past 21 years. That's crazy. You know, they call Columbia Killumbia. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, what y'all think, whatever, about Trump trying to send the troops out here? You know what I'm saying? Because for me, it'll kind of be like a rerun, you know, for real, because, you know, I was outside or whatever during the time before and after 9/11. In fact, like probably an hour before that all goes down, I'm in the area by One World Financial Center. And I crossed the little tunnel thing that takes you from like 1 to 2. But yeah, I was in that bitch because I was getting some money from somebody or whatever and shit because Jay-Z was dropping the blueprint that day. And you know, just ran around or whatever. We were gonna get it from B Street or whatever and shit. You always wanted to get the joint from B Street. It's like something that felt more hip hop and official. Shit. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all think. I remember seeing like the police and military in the subways, corners, especially like down by Wall Street, with M16 rifles just posted up. Like that shit was hella regular. And that shit went on for a long time because even when I came back from Atlanta, in '05, and I was working for the courier service. I'll get into the whole reason behind that. I should tell y'all my Atlanta story. How I ended up in Atlanta. Yeah, I might do that. If I didn't tell it already. But anyway, yeah, like they would like shit. They were like on every corner, bro. I would always see them or whatever when I was doing like my deliveries and shit. So I don't know, like for my era, it wouldn't be something that we hadn't seen before. The only difference was I think people were with it because of the terrorist threat. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let me know what y'all think about that, man.